All right, there we go. The game screen is now back on. So we've got 10 drivers tonight right here in the session out there. We're going to, just as we have the drivers on track, we're going to go to the results of the previous previous Australian Grand Prix, I believe it would have been. It was FaZe Pantera in P1 driving for the Red Bull Racing team tonight. Meanwhile, it was Luco who was in P1. I wonder if it is Vissel or it was Luco, the other driver, who is not here with us tonight because they were, in fact, they were in the Mercedes, but they're not here tonight so far. So they got P2. Then it was Elmo who got challenged out there for the P1 and 2 spot. FaZe is still there, so definitely a nice battle could be happening between these drivers, especially Elmo getting that challenge on that brand new season. So we'll definitely find out on how everything goes and how good all of this certainly will be. Meanwhile, we're just, then it was Arsenal in P4, followed by War in P5. He's with us tonight. Then it was Turbo in P6, who is not to be found here tonight either. Then it was E1, who we have tonight in P7. Then it was Jones in P8, followed by Jamie, who is right here in the Haas tonight as well. Then it was Cardiff, the final driver in P10, with Cactus, Potts, and Liska with a DNF that night in Australia. All right, there we go. That my mic was muted. But there we go then. All right, so we should have drivers now starting with their flying laps nice and early, and we see some support for Kais out there. Let's see what they're doing in the Racing Bulls on a invalidated lap. But of course, this is an out lap, so that's them just skipping through corners, trying to get through to the start of the lap as early as possible. So hopefully it's going to be a great one moving forward. We have a couple of drivers who have eventually started their flying laps. Meanwhile, Williams is about to start their lap, but then it is Jamie. Possibly would be the very first driver over the line with a lap time on the board, just followed by Elmo. But how good will this time from Jamie be? Hopefully the stream quality and everything is going to be great as the Williams driver just gets out of the way of Arsenal there. How good will Jamie be in these brand new 2026 F1 cars? There it is in the Haas. It'll be Jamie Ruff around the final corner now. They're almost out of the battery out there. 134.22. How good is that going to be? Is that good enough? What about Elmo? Will they be beating it straight away? And yes, Elmo does beat it straight away. 132.922. That is definitely somewhat quick end to a lap right there for Elmo. That's quick end in terms of a fast end, of course. A very fast and quick lap right there. So that is a nice lap time they'll be happy with. What about Potts there? They are going to be the next car over the line. How good will they be? As we're about to find out, the Aston Martin driver. Aston Martin, the slowest car in real life. But how fast are they going to be? 134.609. Meanwhile, Pantera beats it up. And already, as we were saying, that Elmo had competition in the first round. He already does have it in the second round as well, as Pantera goes fastest over the session so far, 32.588. So definitely quick competition is on the way for Elmo throughout the season. Let's see then who we will have at the next one over the line. Meanwhile, Vissel now out of the pit lane right there. on the track on an outlap so far. Meanwhile, there is a lot of drivers out there in turn 14, I believe, at the back right there, while Kais is on an invalidated lap, so that's not going to be a lap time that will count. Otherwise, it would have been 33.5, so that would have seen them in P4 just ahead of Jamie right there. Meanwhile, the Williams of Arsenal over the line. How fast they go? 148.3, so not fast enough. Meanwhile, it is E1. It seems like they've came to the end of their lap right there, but this is all they've got. It is all they have so far, it seems like, by the looks of it. Of course, they haven't got the time on the board, so at the moment they have nothing, but it is what it is for them so far. But do we have the McLaren come over the line? Not yet. And while we were looking at Elmo, it was Black Sharks who went over the line and set up a very fast time, who we might have forgotten about. So we're just catching up with Black Sharks then. He's done a great job right there, as I'm just looking at my CPP GPU, but it's all good. Just about 70-degree temperatures. Oh, that was a bit, but let's see. How good are we going to be onto this race? Of course, this race is going to be our main focus, but how fast will Elmo be around there? They're around the second lap right here. Are they going to be charging their battery or using the most of it? By the looks of it, they might be using it right here. Let's see how good or how fast will they be, or in fact their lap will be. Do we see them fast, or will they be improving? And I think they are going to be starting this time, or either come into the pits right there, as they'll come into the pits. For a moment I thought so. Maybe they're trying to go fast, but they had eventually slowed down, so it was rather them trying to make it. Hopefully the stream quality is good. If you guys could comment in the comments, let me know if it is decent enough, because I'm having some troubles of speed drops right here, but hopefully, I'm just hoping it is going to be okay. What about Potts then in the Aston Martin? Now, the only Aston Martin that has a time on the board so far. Over the line they go, 33.9 to 7.2. They've got over the line up to P4. What about their teammate? They're far away. Meanwhile, the Mercedes of Vor right there is now going to be beginning their flying lap. How good can they do? Can they rematch their P4 result of the previous Grand Prix in Australia? But will that be the case, of course, as we are yet to find out. Well, we have things and everything to go on. As just a second, just a split second, I'll be back on the screen, as we have to slightly manage things, but hopefully it is going to be all okay. Then let's see what we're going to be getting ourselves into straight away. While we have drivers now about to come over the line. What about Kais in the RB? Straight into the pit lane then. What about Pantera about to begin their flying lap phase out there, while other whistle in the Ferrari without a time on the board, and that still is going to be a without time on the board so far. But let's see how good and how quick will that be, while we're hoping that all is going to be well for everybody around. So let's see how good will they be doing. Meanwhile, we have 8 minutes still remaining in the session. 7 out of the 10 drivers have got a time on the board so far. While Black Sharks is on a flying lap. Black Sharks on an outlap. Elmo on an outlap as well. While Pantera in pole position so far has not found an improvement in their first sector, unless they go in for a preparation lap, of course. 2/10 down on their lap time once again. So let's see if we could have telemetry to know whether they are trying to save on the battery at the moment as it stands. No, they are not, and they're using on the main on this back straight as well. So that definitely suggests that they are looking to improve, and rather looking to get a time on the board, then trying to save. Meanwhile, they have not found an improvement in the first two sectors, but how true and how good will that be? Let's have a look at this. Well, they were just going to be about to come over the line, and no, they will rather not, and that would have been expected since they were not improving and they've hit the wall. Our pole sitter phase Pantera has hit the wall right there. How big of a hit will that be? It would rather be just a front wing damage if it was to be, but still we're going to have to find out. Meanwhile, War currently in P3. Should see them come into the pits as well. So top 4 drivers all in the 132s. With one driver, Potts, in 133s, 134 for Jamie, with Arsenal then with not a competitive time, then followed by Vissel, E1 and Kais, are all without a time on the board. Meanwhile, we are on board with Sharks. Do we see them go over the line? Do you guys want to see this telemetry on? You want to turn it off? Because I could probably... you know, turn it off, but usually I like to turn it off, but with these new cars, trying to judge whether a driver's going on to a better lap or not, we get to know that. As with that, Black Shark's going to go over, and fastest of them all, 132.328, and that is going to be pole position for Black Sharks so far, but for how long will that be the case? We're going to have to find out with just 6 minutes now remaining in the session, with Pantera, War, Elmo, Potts, Jamie, all in the pit lane so far. Will it be Vissel? Will it be E1 or Kais even for anyone from the bottom 3 to get a lap time on the board? Which will be the fastest? Or do we have anything else on our hand so far? We're going to just find out in these remaining 5.5 minutes of this qualifying session. While Kais, it shows he's on a flying lap, but I wonder if he is on one. We're going to have to find out at the end of this first sector. 24.5. It depends on how good they're doing or how good they will be doing on their we would have known, obviously, had they set up a previous lap time, but they haven't got so unfortunately for them, there's not a benchmark time which they could possibly look at and then say that, oh, this is what we need to improve on. But eventually, that is unfortunately quite unfortunate for them, which they cannot have a look at. But 52.591 in the first 2 sectors as the final one now begins for Kais now in that RB. We're just about going to find out how good will the RB driver do out there. Of course, I'm probably not taking this too much of a high speed. Of course, it's qualifying, so... Oh, that's going to be Kais. He's ran over wide. I think that was all 4 wheels off the track, but he might have gotten away with that, and he has gotten away with that, and that's going to be P5 so far. Just outside the top 4, so still out away from those 132s. But still has got a time on the board, and now, even if they are to improve on this one, they can do so with having a benchmark time on their way. Meanwhile, A1 in that Aston Martin have invalidated their lap. Alright then, so now not a lot remains with drivers. Of course. Now let's see. You know, Sharks currently on pole position, fastest of them all in the pit lane, just coming out of their pit box right now. So just 3 minutes remaining while Pantera is coming out as well. So these guys now coming out would be heading for a, let's say, an out lap, fast lap, and in lap, or they could possibly maybe do a preparation lap and then go for a fast lap again, because of course as the fastest lap here is 132.328, so a, let's say, a in lap or a preparation lap is going to be over 1 minute 35 seconds, so that's almost closer to the 140. So it almost falls into the 2-minute mark, so that's kind of almost going to have them a single lap. So of course, with these batteries, unless they can charge or they do not use it full on their first flying lap, they could possibly continue to take the checkered flag and improve on their final lap, but that's only going to happen if they are, of course, able to, make the most of it right there. So then look at that. Pantera is now just going to be beginning their flying lap, and same goes for Elmo, as Elmo's just now going to be coming around the final corner right here at China. And all right then, so as I was saying, Pantera has let the Aston Martin get past him. So definitely that explains that they will be rather just taking care of the car, taking care of everything, and then now going for a final run. Possibly just warm their tires up, build up tire temperatures in those soft compound, have full 100% battery charge, and only then go for a fast lap right there. As they're not going to go more than 6th gear, of course, as they don't need to. Jamie finally out of the pits after their first flying lap, which they put 134s in. After that, they did not come out, as they've now just decided to come out. Potts has retired out of the session, and I wonder if they have crashed out there. Meanwhile, there's going to be an Aston Martin. I think they might have retired just on track, as their car would have just parked. I'm not quite sure why would they do that, but that is at least something we know about. Meanwhile, we see E1 over the line now using that ERS, so that's going to be them trying to improve on their flying lap. Are we going to have Elmo in the Ferrari? Better lap than their previous one, and yes, that will be. And they're going to jump over up to the front row right there. 132.492. But will that be? Obviously, that's not enough for them, and that pretty much is going to be qualifying over for Elmo. Elmo in the Ferrari would have been the fastest man in the 2025 cars, but is in the case in the 2026 cars right there. So it's between Pantera, Black Sharks, and War. Black Sharks currently on pole position. 3:10s improving on their previous lap time. But how fast will this one be with this one be? And it'll be very fast, moving them up into the 131s. 131.921. And that is going to be the lap time, which will be extremely difficult to beat out there. But how will that be? So Black Sharks taking the checkered flag. Elmo has ended their qualifying session, currently on track, but have ended their lap out there as well. So it's between Pantera and Vor now. Who is it going to be the driver that could deny a pole position or a front row to Elmo, or a pole position to Sharks? We're going to have to find out. It could even be E1 in that Aston Martin if they can improve enough, but by the looks of it, they haven't got any fuel in their car. But can they do something or anything, as Pantera nearly lost the car there? They're going to be 4/10s down on their time, and just about by slightest of margins, War doesn't improve either. So that is going to be your qualifying results, ladies and gentlemen. Just on the exit of the final corner, FaZe Pantera lost it out there, and that pretty much gave up their chances of a pole position here at the Shanghai International Circuit for the Chinese Grand Prix. And that means we have ourselves a pole sitter for the Grand Prix, and that's going to be Black Sharks alongside Elmo on the front row. these are your qualifying results then. Black Sharks on pole, Elmo in P2, followed by Pantera in P3. Then comes Vor in P4, with Potts in P5. Guys, in P6, then it's Jamie, E1, Arsenal, and Vissel. Other Vissel out there. So Arsenal far away lap time from anybody else, and Vissel without a time on the board. I wonder if they had a qualifying ban though, because we didn't see them even trying in qualifying. And let's have a look at that. So we're gonna have to see. I wonder if there is a break. I believe there usually is one after the end of a race. So that's gonna be definitely something we're gonna have to get on with. We should be getting our information on whether if there is a break coming up or not. Right, so we've got 3 minutes to ourselves at 30. That means just in 3 minutes, we should be going racing here in China. It should be fantastic, of course, racing back in Australia. It was great, of course, with the 10 drivers finishing. It's only going to be 10 starting here, so it'll be interesting to see how many finish. If 10 out of 10 finish, that's going to be a somewhat interesting thing right there. Meanwhile, we have a driver lost, so they will need an invitation. Hopefully, with them getting an invitation and us getting a ready up message, we'll be out there as soon as possible. And drivers have been told to ready up, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to go racing here at the Chinese Grand Prix at the Shanghai International Circuit here at Late Breakers Club. It is round 2 of the 24-round championship racing every single weekend, if I'm not mistaken, up from round 2 to round 24, unless there is a bit of a week or two break in between the season, but I doubt there is. And there we go, straight away, we're going to go racing. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 red lights as we see the pole sitter already moving to the right-hand side. Excuse me. Going to try and defend from Elmo. Elmo already on the charge from Pantera there. And there we go, Pantera is already... caught up right there with them. That's going to be still a decent start for Black Sharks there as they take up pole position, and they've got their pole position right there. Then comes FaZe Pantera, then it is Elmo on the inside line, nearly going into the back of it, and there is Chaos at the back as E1 goes through one of the drivers, and that was a horrific start for both the Aston Martin and by the looks of it, Potsing P5, so that is a decent start for them. But let's see how good and how interesting will this race be from right here, as we need to get the interval, and then we need to get the telemetry, and we need to get the tires. So tires, as far as it's concerned, Pantera has jumped Elmo already. Elmo, of course, right behind Pantera there with War in P4. Then it'll be Potts, who is currently in P5 by the looks of it so far. There's drivers at the back as Jamie is going side by side with Kais out there. Kais and Jamie going wheel to wheel. Kais around the outside of Jamie, gets past as Kais runs absolutely wide. That'll allow Jamie to get past him while Kais comes back and rejoins the track out there. They're going to be side by side into the final corner as well. One of them has to leave the track. None of them leaves the track, and that is actually brilliant racing for both of them. Just about giving each other enough space to get past one another, or just go racing side by side as it is to be. Meanwhile, Jamie takes the position so far. Of course, it is going to be 28 laps of racing, as it's a mixed up of race tires then as it stands. 5 drivers starting on the mediums and 5 starting on the hard compound tire. Meanwhile, we go back to the top drivers then. It's all in the top 4, starting on that medium compound tire. Pantera, Sharks, Elmo, War, and Potts then on the hards. Then Jamie again on the mediums. Then it is the bottom 4, all in the hard tires as well, followed by Kais, E1, Other Whistle, and Arsenal Boy. Meanwhile, the top drivers are in their own, so definitely I think now it's going to be interesting to see who's got more battery on each straight right there, because usually, of course, on 25, sure, ERS was decent, but I feel like ERS on F1 25 cars was more used as a defending thing rather than an overtaking thing. Right here in 26, if you have the battery, you're going to swoop past the cars in front, as that was Sharks nearly losing the rear end on the lockup there. They ran a little bit wide out there, not the exit they would have wanted, the top 4 in a race of their own. Meanwhile, it's a one-stop strategy, interestingly, for hard medium, then of course medium hard, but it'll be interesting to see who does that one-stop or who doesn't, or rather people and drivers go for a set of medium tires. You'd rather, in a case of would want, no medium tires, sorry, you know, most of them, I would believe they'd go for multiple stops, but let's see, because it's 28 laps, then definitely you could say so 14 laps on each tire, but it'll be interesting to get the idea of whether both the tires can do over 14. Medium tires can do 14 or more laps. Meanwhile, Sharks is not pulling away from Pantera, but Elmo is catching up to Pantera now. So that is all going to be interesting between the top 3. Moving up right there, we see these amazing helicopter shot to get us an idea of the McLaren and Red Bull fight around here. Will the Red Bull driver go on the inside line? Rather, they might get overtaken by Elmo. Meanwhile, they nearly make contact, and the front of Pantera's car goes into the back of Black Sharks. Meanwhile, it's going to be Pantera versus Elmo. They'll be wheel to wheel. Who has more battery? Almost both of them have similar. Rather, Pantera is gonna have over 40%. Meanwhile, it's almost 3 wide between these drivers. That slightly helps Black Sharks get past. And sorry about that, we slightly paused there, but it was about I warned you about. But let's see, I think definitely all these action we're getting right here is definitely going to be more than great. Meanwhile, Elmo, let's go on board with the Ferrari driver right there. That is going to be absolutely exceptional right there, as I wonder if, yep, Arsenal has retired from the session, as I was saying already, that it'll be interesting to see that how many drivers finish this race. And it is already one driver off it. And look at if you look at on the telemetry of both the drivers for Pantera and Elmo, both of them have got yellow on the fuel. That means they are starting with less fuel in their cars. Meanwhile, Elmo's going to try and go for it on the inside line of the Red Bull. He doesn't quite get past. So, yeah, the McLaren driver is fine, but Elmo and Pantera will need fuel saving. So maybe they'll need a safety car, or they will just need to do some lift and coast at some part of the race, trying to save that fuel. Of course, there's going to be drivers in the back as well. Meanwhile, Pantera now would go for the inside line of the McLaren right there. Both of them lock up. Will Pantera run a little bit wide? Maybe he will, or maybe not. But the McLaren is going to try and come back. Can they come back? At least not into the final corner. Maybe on the main straight now. And there we go. That's going to be Black Sharks just getting past Pantera right there as we wait for cars to arrive. That'll be Ferrari versus Red Bull versus McLaren all over again. As they slightly make contact as Elmo and Sharks go wheel to wheel. Sorry, rather it is Pantera and Elmo who were going side by side. Again, they're almost doing that same once more as Elmo goes for it on the inside line, sends it off the Red Bull as the Ferrari gets past him. But for how long, though? Because the Red Bull driver is going to instantly come back, and maybe not now. And that is only going to help Sharks to pull away right here. Already is 9 tenths ahead of these guys, over a second ahead of these guys. So one of them isn't going to get the battery boost that will be there. That will be there. Meanwhile, it's going to be FaZe, Pantera, and Elmo side by side as Pantera gets past Elmo around the outside. Will Elmo keep his car on the inside line right there? No, he will not. Rather, has to back out. Meanwhile, we're going to look at the back at the other part of this race. It is other Vissel, 1.8 seconds to the next car. Maybe E1 and Kais, but also 4 tenths separating the two drivers. So not much between them. 4 tenths between Jamie and Potts as well. So Jamie and Potts having a bit of a fight of theirs, but for how long? Or for how good of a fight will that be? Meanwhile, the top drivers, we've seen Black Sharks pull away, and he has pulled away because of this fight between Pantera and Elmo right there. Meanwhile, Vor is having their own race. A bit of in no man's land ahead of the rest of the people behind him and behind those in front of him. So, obviously, not in the Will Buxton action, but of course, in the case of he's not near anybody. Rather, at least 3 seconds ahead of the cars in front, behind of the cars in front, and 6 seconds ahead of the cars behind. Once again, drivers closer to each other indeed, and right there, the top three. Just in a bit of an organized way right there. And I think both of them might have had to realize, Elmo and Pantera, that because of them fighting, it is allowing Sharks then to pull away. Well, Sharks has got over 70% of battery. Meanwhile, with that boost available, Pantera's got 60%. He's going to use that. So will Sharks to just keep up his position right there. Meanwhile, Elmo hasn't got much, only 20%. So they might just be on either none, or in fact, they are on none indeed. So just trying to recharge their battery right there. So we're 7 laps in. Meanwhile, Kais is into the pits. That is an interesting pit stop, and I would assume that they've got either a front wing damage or maybe an alternative strategy they would have been thinking of. But I would rather hope that, not hope, but rather predict that's a front wing, and indeed it is a front wing change. So lap 7 out of 28 then so far. I think, of course, it'll be interesting. So yeah, basically, as I was saying, again, it'll be interesting on the strategies of how these drivers will be going. Of course, if they are to go one stop, they'll definitely. If they're to go one stop, they'll definitely do multiple laps after completing 10 laps on these tires. So definitely 14 or 15 laps on these medium compound tires for them to see a chance of a one-stop race in this this Grand Prix, of course. Otherwise, it's going to be rather so otherwise it's obviously going to be rather a two-stop race, which would be quite the I mean, we're yet to find out, obviously, what it's going to be, but just a prediction of it. And it's been a long time. Of course, my first experience around China 2026. So definitely that would mean slightly different pit stops or drivers with tire wear from the 2025 game. Meanwhile, FaZe is going to go for it on the inside line. Almost nearly a dive bomb there. Almost going into the back of the McLaren right there as he gives up the place back to the McLaren and lets him get past. But rather that would have been because of trying to get that boost available to himself in that Red Bull. And now gets past the McLaren into the lead of the race. And Pantera has taken the lead of the race on lap 9 out of 28. As he leads the Chinese Grand Prix, and Sharks has lost out the lead of this race just right now. It's going to be interesting to see now whether they can catch it back, or it'll be Elmo even overtaking Sharks as well. They're going to have to find out around this straight now. Will 710 Stu Pantera, will Sharks be able to close up? He hasn't got the boost battery. That, of course, Elmo and Pantera have got themselves to defend from everybody around. Remember, the only driver who's pitted in this race is Kais, who decided to pit just 2 to 3 laps earlier, I believe, because of a front wing damage. They're currently at 9th place and on their own. Meanwhile, Black Sharks currently in P2 so far, so all depends on whether they'll be trying to get past Pantera, or who will that be? Because with this close of a gap, we wouldn't know till the final lap or even the final corner who is going to be the winner right here of this race, because these regulations are fun for racing. I mean, sure, we don't like it maybe in real life to watch as fans or drivers themselves about having to manage batteries, this and that, but
I've raced these on F1, of course, the game. So I kind of like it personally in terms of racing, of how much you can attack if you have the battery. So it's almost a zigzag or like back and forth till the end of the race, but then that's an exciting factor. You never know who is going to win till the final corner, which is a rather plus for these regulations. Of course, you need to figure these battery management thing out, because if you cannot manage, then you're going to not like it. But for me, ERS was harder. The previous regulations where I just had not much idea of, or just I couldn't really manage that ERS myself. So this battery, because it charges very early, it's rather easier to manage because it kind of charges very early, you know. So, you know, possibly just in a corner, let's say, look at that. He was on when he came into the corner. Sharks was over just 50%, I believe. Now he's over 80% on the exit of that little section. So definitely, that's how quick it charges. Again, he goes over 90 plus once more into the braking. So definitely it is quite easier in terms of that. Meanwhile, oh, that was slightly bit of a weird exit. Meanwhile, Elmo has lost out 1.8 seconds to Sharks right there, as we're going to see Elmo, Sharks 9/10 to Pantera as well. So Pantera, ever since he's taken the lead, he has not looked back at all. Hasn't really allowed either Sharks or Elmo to get closer. Definitely closer they've been, but not an overtake to be exact. But now that's going to be interesting. We have another driver in the pits earlier. Other whistle it was. Will the Ripple driver come into the pit lane? No, they won't. They're going to continue straight away, and all three drivers will rather continue straight away. Anybody else who might try and give it a go to the pit stops, as War has ran absolutely wide. They might want to give it a go with how wide they've ran, and they will give it a go indeed. There's 12 laps on these medium tires, and they almost recreated Lewis Hamilton 2007. Of course, in 2007 there was gravel around there, so that would have been their car stuck, but even on that road they nearly put it into the wall. So their tires were gone, and at least, if not confirmation, at least an idea for us to know that other drivers now should be coming in as well. While Jamie is into the pits as well, so that means that our race leaders aren't in there for too long. Sure, they can stretch, let's say maybe lap this is lap 12, so lap 14, maybe they can actually go for a one-stop type thing. You know, they can stretch it a couple of laps and go for 14 laps on the hard tire and do a one-stop strategy, which is kind of looking likely now by the looks of it, but let's see how it is. Of course, sometimes if you are fighting each other, you can lose a lot of tire wear, and in War's case, he wasn't fighting anybody, but he was fighting himself, trying to drive as fast as he can, and that might have been quite difficult for themselves. But let's see, of course, as an overall experience, how will that be for these guys? We're yet to be halfway distance of this race, and by the looks of Pantera, they're going to be into the pits as well, along with Black Sharks. Both of them into the pit lane. Elmo follows as well, as Potts is quite far behind on the track. Meanwhile, both Aston Martins are in P4 and 5 with the drivers in front pitting, so that is interesting to see. Meanwhile, Sharks is going to be out of the pit box by the time Elmo arrives, so Elmo's chances of a victory, at least so far, might be not obviously far from over, but not also not as much as all right. So yeah, sorry once again, but yeah. So yeah, as I said, you know, maybe not as much, once again, not as much Black Sharks or Pantera. I mean, well, Pantera trying to get past those Aston Martins, interestingly. them being a bit of an obstacle, and now Black Sharks to the car in front, rather, is over 9/10s, but just if Potts is able to defend for a little bit longer from Sharks, that can easily fall into Pantera's play. Remember, Pantera's won round 1. They could possibly make it 2 wins in 2 races if that is going to be the case, as Potts might try and be an obstacle in Sharks' way. But for how long will that be the case? Of course, even though they're going to be side by side, there isn't much action between the two right now, but it'll be very crucial into turn 14. Who's going to be the driver as Sharks nearly clips up the front end or front wing of Potts' car there, just around the outside, trying to make the move, and they've made it past the Aston Martin, as Potts is still going to continue on those hard compound tires. And definitely it'll be nice to see on those hard tire runners, when do they pit? Obviously it's going to be 14 laps for Potts on these hards, but then he's going to have to do 14 on those mediums as well. Can they? Or will they just stretch it to maybe like lap 16, lap 17 on these hard tires to make it the most of these hard tires? Then in the end on a nice first easy medium tires. Then obviously it won't be easy, but then easy in terms of a bit of tire wear left and not have to worry about tire management. Rather, they would have to worry about that, I think, even if they have slightly less than 14 laps, but still they're going to have to treat it like any other stint, but still trying to just, take the okayance of it, or just trying to take care of it, or simply trying to allow them to basically have a bit of a breath of fresh air, a little bit less tense, if we could put it in best words. The top two are now there 2 seconds to each other, while Potts is going to get out of the way, and Elmo is over now just 4/10s to Potts right there. Elmo should be getting past Potts quite easy, nice and easy right there, but for how easy will that be? Ferrari trying to get past an Aston Martin, Elmo trying to get past Potts. Potts has absolutely well done trying to defend, but they've ran a little bit wide into the first couple of corners, and that was a huge slide from Elmo, nearly took out Potts there, but Potts just takes evasive action as they're going to be side by side, and they make contact once again. They're going to bang wheels. Who will be coming out on top now into the right-hander there? That hairpin's quite interesting to take on as well. Will it be the Ferrari or will it be the Aston Martin? Elmo at the inside line gets past the Aston Martin and gets the move done finally for the Ferrari. A bit of relief having gotten past the Aston Martin, but honestly, with these regulations, as I said earlier, you would never be relaxing at all with that close of a gap to the car. Sure, 1.4 seconds, and he's only gaining, obviously, on those brand new hard tires. That's going to be advantaging the Ferrari, and he's already gained over 1.8 seconds, almost 2 seconds now, so that's going to be nice for the Ferrari, using a bit of a boost as well, trying to save himself from the Aston Martin. But just like round 1, Elmo might be settling for that P3. But let's see. Still a long way to go. We've just gone past halfway distance in this race. Lap 15 becomes the second half of this race. So rather, we're about to get an idea of on what we have, or what we are going to be having, in terms of exactly what we want to have, or rather what we're about to have right here with them. Meanwhile, Potts is now into the pits after doing over 16 laps. Or in fact, rather, it was 15 laps on these hard tires. I would have thought they're going to go over the line. That'll be 16, but rather that is 15 so far. And there's a bit of a fight with the Ferrari involved, but it is at the very back of the grid, with Jamie and Vissel trying to fight each other off right there. Meanwhile, Kai's in P5, but remember Kai's pitted earlier, so Kai's on 9-lap old mediums. Possible hard tire for them soon, so just a one-stop, two-stop race is going to be the case for them so far. But let's see, I think at the moment the race is kind of stabilizing, but it'll be interesting to get on. You know, remember, Pantera has got to do tire fuel management. Meanwhile, Elmo, same was the case for Elmo as well, and it is still yellow for him, so definitely it might be the case that they would have backed out, or at least would have, you know, lift and coasted to try and save that fuel, which they've taken less. Sometimes drivers do take it less, possibly hoping for a safety car, or maybe hoping for a time where they can lift and coast to simply, you know, get an idea of it. But so far, at least, we haven't got a safety car. Only one driver we've lost from the race, and that is Arsenal, as Kais is into the pits right now for the second time in this race. While so far as it stands, I mean, the race that we've got in front of our hands, Potts might try and get past the Ferrari right there. He was fighting one Ferrari earlier. He's going to be fighting another Ferrari right now. It's going to be Whistle versus Potts, wheel to wheel. Car number 8 versus an Aston Martin right there. Who is going to be the driver that comes out on top as they nearly make contact once again? It was the Ferrari, car number 8, losing out right there of Aston Martin, of Potts so far. Meanwhile, our Whistle's got 100%, but that already becomes 70 or early now 60%, and that's how you know how fast that battery is drained. It goes from 50 to 60 or 100 to even a 50 within a couple of seconds right there. And there we go, Potts doing all the recoveries. They gone past a Ferrari, and they're going to get past a Haas as well. So that is brilliantly falling into their case. 18 laps in, they're going to have to do 12 laps from now. So 14 laps to the end of this race for them on these tires. While Jamie on 5 laps is going to make it 6 laps on these hard compound tires. So definitely, I was about to say a 1-2 stop for them, but as I just seen, that the top 4 drivers have done the same as well on their tires, so that certainly means that they would possibly be fine on those on those hard tires rather to the end of the race. I'm just trying to see if somebody is there in the chat. Nobody is, obviously, as everybody is racing right now. Which is definitely going nice right there with... So now that is the part where obviously having just new pit stops, you know, a couple of laps from here, either the drivers are going to catch up each other or we're pretty much going to lose out on time with these drivers slightly losing out to each other maybe and almost going into the bubble of the race of their own, with the Pantera looking set so far in the lead, and their fuel warning is gone. That means while staying in the lead, they've saved enough fuel to go to the end, while Elmo's lift and course warning still yet to go away. Meanwhile, Elmo is only 1.4 seconds behind Sharks, with Pantera, meanwhile, is over 6.4 seconds ahead of Black Sharks, which is quite a big distance right there as it stands. So interesting. Let's see how it will be with lap 19 out of 28. So as soon as we're past lap 20, it'll only be the 20 laps to the end of the Grand Prix. Kais takes the fastest lap of this race so far, currently in P9, has pitted just right now. So has Whistle, I believe, or rather E1 has pitted 3 laps ago as well. So now Kai's currently in P9, of course, 5.7 seconds to the car in front, but for them, obviously, as long as they finish, they will be getting points for P9. But it's the case of can they finish, though? Because that's one, can they finish? But then also, where can they finish? Because definitely they were in a decent position before they made a pit stop, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So they definitely, certainly would be wanting to rather, you know, at least, if not in the top 5, be a couple of positions up top. Maybe a P7 or P6 or even P5. But let's see how will that be. Meanwhile, Elmo and Sharks have caught up to each other right there, with Elmo now just about a second behind, or almost within a second of Sharks right there. Well, Sharks within a second of Elmo, to be precise. Meanwhile, 30% battery on the Ferrari and 50% on the McLaren, rather. But it'll be interesting if, just if, Elmo is able to get that boost of Sharks right there, that within 1 second, if he is, he can get that extra boost, extra speed throughout the whole lap to try and make him overtake the car. That is going to be nice and easy, nice and interesting, of course, for this to be throughout. But then it depends on what we're going to be getting through. Well, let's see, 5 tenths between these drivers, so definitely expect them to go side by side or be racing each other within a couple of laps. And once again, it is only going to go against these guys if they are holding each other for a little bit too long, because remember, they're on a one-stop strategy here with most of the drivers around here are. But they need to take care of this tire, because as I said earlier, if they do not take care of this tire, that is going to be quite difficult for them to make it to the end. Of course, they are going to be able to make it to the end, but will they have enough tire? Will they have enough tire grip? Will they have enough traction that is needed for them to go to the end of these races? All right, then the Ferrari ever closer to the McLaren after those first one-stop pit stops were over. It felt like drivers were not going to be catching up each other anymore, and that was Black Sharks and Elmo fighting each other right there. They're still fighting each other. It looks like they're finally going to be having a fight now. It was over a second gap of a couple of laps ago, and that only remains 3 tenths to each other. Also, both of them might just be gaining on Pantera as well. The gap was over 6.4 seconds. It's now only 5.1 or 5.2 seconds right there. Meanwhile, 2 tenths the gap between these two drivers. For how long will that be the case? Will Sharks be able to defend, be able to do defending nicely, or will it simply be Elmo getting past Sharks right there? Ooh, that was quite close. For a moment, I would have thought he's almost going to get past him, but that isn't really the case as it stands. so far, but for now we're about to watch them once more around the back straight right here. Is he going to be close enough to be making a move? Will he be close enough to make a move? I do not think so, unless he goes for a huge dive bump, which is even against AI would have been quite not good. I think that's exactly what you expect. Elmo will not be doing that at all, but now that boost will be available to the Ferrari once again. He's going to be using all of that to help him get past the McLaren, but will he be able to get past the McLaren into its turn one we go, at least as into turn one? That is not going to be the case. A long turn, right turn one is there, but the Ferrari driver is still yet to get past. I mean, if we are to see them catch up to the leader as well, look at that. The gap is tumbling down 4.7 seconds. It'll be interesting to see if we do have a fight for top 3, fighting for the win for us right here, which could be unlikely, though. Still 5 seconds is a lot, so unless they both just simply drive, they can catch up, but if these guys are just going to be fighting each other for P2, then it becomes pretty obvious that it'll be quite difficult for them to catch up unless Pantera makes a huge mistake. Meanwhile, Elmo will be going for it there. You would have just thought he's moved onto the side to go side by side and take the move, but it wasn't a B. And it isn't the case right now so far, but now once again around the back straight. This time he's ever closer, and he's way closer than he was earlier. Black Shark's going to go defensive on the inside line. Elmo goes around the outside for the Sharks, forces him the long way around. The McLaren driver just about does enough to defend against a Ferrari once more. This is brilliant racing. This is great racing between the two drivers out there. They've done it brilliantly throughout the race so far, and they're doing it still. And Sharks, Elmo's coming back at him back and forth, but Sharks is just defending nice and easy out there as he does a well job as well. So far, but Sharks still at P2. You would have thought by the time Elmo caught up to him. And Elmo's made a mistake, as we were just about dreaming of almost a 3-way fight for the win. Might just be a no fight for even P2, as we were just looking at Sharks, and for a moment we lost Elmo, and as soon as we switched up to them, there was a yellow flag there, and they were in the middle of the track, and that means they've lost the car on their own, and maybe, just maybe, those medium tires are now just going to be needed to cruise to the end of the Grand Prix. Otherwise, it could be very difficult. Meanwhile, remember, Elmo still has got yellow fuel. That means he's going to have to back and forth, or lift and course, sorry, to go to the end of this race then from here. So podium chances would definitely be over for them unless they try and come. Podium chances will be there, but that race win or that P2 chances could well be jumping us now. Already, Elmo 4.9 seconds behind Black Sharks, who's gained once again from the mistake of Elmo right there. Meanwhile, Kais is right behind the back of E1 right there. So Kais has gone past Whistle, and he's now going to try and get past E1 right there in the Aston Martin, which is the current battle that we have. The Ferrari going to get past the McLaren, but the RB might get past the Aston Martin right here. They're going to be wheel to wheel. Both of them rather don't have much battery to save. But the RB, Kais goes for it on the inside line and gets past, gets the overtake done. That is a brilliant overtake for Kais as he makes the move, and that is done. But is it done enough, though? Because obviously similar tire laps for both of them. No battery for Kais out there. E1 hasn't got much or any either. But it all depends on how good or how fast we'll be going, as E1 gets a 3-second time penalty. The only driver, interestingly, who's got a 3-second time penalty because of track limits in this race so far. An interesting lap 25 out of 28. By the looks of it, Kais has pulled away, but has he though? Because E1 is catching up within 8/10 of Kais right there. Obviously, maybe him getting that P7 might not be enough, but he could possibly at least overtake him on track. Meanwhile, we go throughout the Grand Prix now then on board with our race leader, who we haven't caught up in quite a while. It is FaZe Pantera is doing an excellent job. 6.7 seconds to the car behind, or 6.7 seconds ahead of the car behind, leading the Chinese Grand Prix. They took the lead on lap 9 and has been leading ever since after those pit stops as well. So they've done an excellent job with Black Sharks. They had the challenge of, even though they qualified on pole, got overtaken by Pantera, but they were quite challenged by Elmo, but they did not lose the position and did an excellent job just trying to defend from Elmo right there, and they were successful with Elmo then having the challenge of different and multiple drivers within the first two races of this season already, as of course last season as well. But it'll be now nice to see how well and how good it will be with I'm just not sure why this but yeah, so Elmo then finding it difficult. First, they were within the top 3, lost out. Started with a little bit less of fuel, so had to do lift and coast throughout. Again, for a moment, you'd have thought they're going to be back with Black Sharks. Maybe both of them try and catch up Pantera, or at least fight each other. Black Sharks, Elmo just lost the car on their own, or they collided with each other. That is, I'm unsure, but yeah, at least something happened, and they were in the middle of the track. They've lost the car, and Wall, probably the least talked driver throughout the Grand Prix, but rather we have to appreciate right here, they've been in P4 ever since. Sure, outside the podium positions, but inside the top 5 and rather top 4. Even though they're 24 seconds behind the car in front, they're 16 seconds ahead of the car behind. So that is an interesting spot to be, and I think that is decent as well. Well, Potts is currently in P5, just about 2 seconds ahead of Jamie, who's over 1.9 seconds, or rather 2 seconds ahead of Kais, with E1 at 1.3 behind Kais, while Vissel over 13 seconds behind these drivers. Meanwhile, our race leader about to get themselves over 8-second lead. That is quite interesting. Over 8 seconds in the lead is interestingly nice to see, as they will now just move over to the final lap of the Grand Prix. And with that, interestingly, even though after losing a lot, Elmo is once again, after saving enough fuel, doing the lift and coast they wanted, they're pushing up again, and that sees this gap to be 3.2 seconds. Will it be enough? Will we see anything on the final lap? I don't think so. But at least they caught back up after the mistake they made. We lost one driver throughout the race so far. 10 started, 9 going on, 1 lost within 2 laps. I believe it was Arsenal. I wonder if they crashed out or what happened to them. They simply lost the car on their own, and pretty much they were on their own as well by the time when they lost the car as well. So that was definitely not what, not what they would have been hoping for. That's the best way to put it then out there. Meanwhile, look at that. Pantera has got no fuel, as he's got red fuel out there and is moving left and right around the last couple of corners as we're on board, rather now watching our race leader out there. Does Elmo have red? And he has red on his fuel as well, but it is going to be Pantera, qualified on the front row, but finished first, and is going to come home to win the Chinese Grand Prix and make it 2 wins in 2 races for Pantera and the Red Bull. And Black Sharks finishes P2 with a podium on his line, and with Elmo, despite the mistakes and challenges he faced, he comes over to take P3, and another podium. 2 P3 finishes in 2 races is definitely going to be something they will take, and that is a job well done to them as well. Meanwhile, War in a race of their own, but still it'll be 2 P4 finishes for them in 2 races. Is an excellent example of consistency and an excellent job done for them as well. So well done to them. While Potts was another driver who was almost in a race of their own. Finishes P5. Jamie in P6 with Kais in P7 out there. While E1 in P8, and they're over 6 seconds ahead of Vissel, and that means even though they finish they have a 3-second time penalty, that will not be taking effect at all, and that is Vissel, who finishes in P9, and your final driver to end this Grand Prix. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the end of this Grand Prix. Well done, everyone. And Elmo showing themselves as well that this DLC, or at least 2026 cars, maybe not as effective to them as they would have hoped for. And those, ladies and gentlemen, are your podium celebrations with Ripple on top, a Ferrari and a McLaren right there, which is nice and interesting. Meanwhile, Potts is driver of the day, so well done to them as well. Meanwhile, Kais ends up with the fastest lap. So these are your race results, ladies and gentlemen. Pantera in P1, followed by Sharks in P2. Then comes Elmo in P3, followed by War in P4 with Potts in P5. Then Jamie in P6 with Kais in P7. Elmo E1 in P8. And Other Vissel in P9 with Arsenal with a DNF and did not finish. So that's going to be the end of it then, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all watching enjoyed it. And from all of us here at I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, and that's going to be the end of it then, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all watching enjoyed it. Had all the fun of racing. Even though we had just 10 drivers, I think this was a decent race, especially being China, having too many long straights, not many corners where you would see drivers overtake, but still, it was a great one. And from all of us here at Light Breakers Club and myself, Zabi, and I'm out. Adios.